it's taken us a long time to collectively build this up. And so I think that's why we felt it was so important to get out in front and to help people to have a vision and confidence that they're going to come out the other side of this.
Okay, I'm joined now by Matt Cullen, CEO of Bedrock, the real estate and development arm of Dan Gilbert's Quicken Loans empire. And Matt, you all had an important announcement this morning in regarding measures to assist the many small businesses and restaurants that occupy space in your buildings. You're providing rent relief. Why don't you tell us about that program, who's going to be eligible, how long it's going to last?
Sure, Nolan. We rolled it out today, but it was the results of a lot of work that we had done over the last several days. We've interacted with almost every one of our, couple of hundred tenants in Detroit and Cleveland to understand sort of their circumstance and what they were going through, what would be helpful to them, and so on. And we kind of synthesized that down and said we needed to do something significant from an expense standpoint, particularly for our smallest businesses, the most vulnerable ones, our restaurants, local retailers, that kind of thing. And so what we announced today was a program that we would forgive rent for those folks for up to 90 days. And that would include not just the rent, but the costs, sort of the common area costs, that kind of thing, and parking. And so a big fundamental change from an expense standpoint. And we also connected them into our website so that they get the benefit of all of the best and current thinking and best practices and where they could get additional help from a small business standpoint. And finally, we asked them how we could help them continue to connect with their customers and so on. And so we've been working to put that in place as well. So a fairly comprehensive program, and one that I think gives us enough time, it gives them enough time to have some breathing room to look forward enough to make sure that they're coming out of this in a proper way.
What was the answer to that question? How can you help them connect with their customers?
Well, it differs. I mean, a lot of them, the restaurants are like, hey, make sure people know that we're still available for takeout. Others, virtual yoga. So you and I could be doing virtual yoga through one of the studios. And
we'll turn the cameras off before that starts.
That's probably a good idea. Others were like, hey, we've got products that you could order online. And some of it's just like, making sure our customers are aware we're still here and that we're going to be here in a couple months when this thing ends and we're back to business. And so an interesting amount of it, Nolan, was just connectivity. I mean, people wanted to stay connected to us as landlords, to their customers, to the broader Detroit sort of ecosystem.
Now, Matt, do you have any sense for what % of the tenants of your buildings are shut down, aren't being able to operate during this crisis?
It's a fairly significant, I mean, if we're talking to retail tenants, right, it's a fairly significant number, and obviously it's increasing with the governor. We operate obviously in both Ohio and in Michigan, but Governor DeWine the other day and then Governor Whitmer today, the changes that they're making, the numbers increasing as the traffic goes down and so on. So I don't have an exact percentage, but it's becoming a very significant percentage.
But the shelter in place orders are going to take in a whole lot more businesses than perhaps we saw last week.
They certainly could. And these businesses operate a bit on a trend basis too, right? And so if they see a continual decline, then they need to make the decision to do the right thing. And that has to be judged on an individual business basis. I mean, the one of the benefits of our program was the flexibility that it doesn't require people to use sort of money in any particular way. If it's the right thing for them to do to stay open, great. If they can help take care of their team members because they had to close, great. If it allows them to position themselves to come out and relaunch strong, that's great too. So, we're kind of working with each individual tenant in that regard.
Have you ever taken a tally of how many people work in your buildings?
Good question. I guess I should have a better number for you. We have almost 17,000 team members downtown, just the FOC.
Yeah.
And so I would say we're roughly a third of it. So I would say 40 or 50,000, Nolan.
Okay.
But obviously a lot of our tenants support, all of downtown. And so
Yeah.
it's a bigger number than that.
And downtown's empty, Matt. I tweeted the other day when I walked over for my last trip to the barber shop in a while, or for a while, that it's as if somebody turned back the calendar a dozen years when you could walk across downtown and not pass another person. Downtown's empty. And I wanted to ask you, as someone who's been involved with this revival from the very beginning, uh, this is our first real downturn, economic downturn since Detroit's rebound started. Are we strong enough? Is Detroit in a position where it can weather a severe recession, a severe and prolonged economic downturn?
Well, I hope so. Obviously, we're in a much better position than we have been historically as we're
Yeah.
going into this. And so, but it's an ecosystem that has taken us a long time to build
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
Part of Dan Gilbert's original vision of creating this kind of the urban environment that we all wanted is public space, is people out on the street, it's big retailers, Nike and Under Armour and Lululemon and H&M and all those guys, but it's all these little guys too. And it's that's what makes it feel cool and makes it feel authentic
Right.
Detroit and all those kinds of things. And so it's taken us a long time to collectively build this up. And so I think that's why we felt it was so important to get out in front and to help people to have a vision and confidence that they're going to come out the other side of this thing. And fortunately, the because of the level of support that Bedrock
Hmm.
and Dan have provided for retailers, I mean, the program that we're making available is for roughly 40% of the retailers
Okay.
in the core of downtown. And so I hope that through our initiative and hopefully others that folks are working on, that we can nurture these people during this period of time, because it's one thing for GM or Quicken or others to sustain themselves through this kind of a challenge, but for the local folks, the local entrepreneurs that are kind of going month to month on this thing, it's a very different world for them.
So when you look at this program, how long can you sustain it, and how long do you think your entrepreneurs who are in these buildings, these startup store owners, startup restaurant owners, how long can they hang on?
Well, I mean, don't know. I mean, we're evaluating that thing as we go, in the sense of, I mean, clearly, Dan's philosophy is, for a long time has been, we're in it for the long play, right? I mean, we didn't come downtown 10 years ago thinking that we were going to make money on a quick turnaround basis. We came and thought we could affect the kind of the trajectory of the city. We could do good and do well in our hometown. When you have that kind of a sort of a cultural compass, if you will, I think it helps us understand how to react to situations like this. But it's unprecedented time, so it's difficult for me to say which retailer will find that what the best choice for them is. But what we've tried to do with this program, and that's why we put it out for as long as we did. I mean, we didn't want people trying to make these decisions on a week to week basis. We wanted to say, hey, relax. Don't worry about this piece of it. I mean, you got plenty of other things to worry about. Relax about this and position yourself so that you're ready to come out of this thing stronger than ever.
Matt, you all have a number of construction projects underway downtown, and I noticed over the last week they, for the most part, continued, or at least they seem to have. With this shelter-in-place order, are you going to be able to continue work on the Hudson site, on the Madison block, and what have you? Are you going to be able to uh, keep work going?
I don't know. I mean, literally, Nolan, as we were speaking, there's conversations going on as to what the governor's mandate what the impact is. Everybody's trying to sort it out, and I I don't mean that in a complaining way. I mean, everybody's sort of trying to figure it out every day, and so it seems that up until now, to your point, we've been able to keep the projects going. We've worked very closely with Barton Mallow, a general contractor, on a couple of the projects, and with other general contractors on others, and they've been able to do it in a way that they felt was very safe for their team members and, constructive, kind of pun intended, to keeping things going and to moving forward with these big projects that are very important to Detroit's future. So, but it's sort of day to day. I mean, as we navigate our way through that, and there does seem to be a likelihood that some of the governor's recommendations or directives today will be impactful on that, but we don't really have full clarity yet.
Matt Cullen, CEO of Bedrock, thanks for joining us on One Detroit in this new world of Zoom videos and interviews. We'll check back with you shortly to see how this program is going and how your tenants are doing. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Nolan. Great to talk to you.
Find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.